Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson alongside Andrew Bone. I told you the recruiting Q&A with Andrew Bone was coming. Bone, what's up, man? We finally got you on for a call-in show. I'm excited to get all the recruiting questions, considering there's only 3 commitments in the class of 2021. People are freaking out, man.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where, Alabama fans are looking and seeing, all these other schools like, Tennessee and Clemson, Ohio State, several commitments right now. But Alabama's still trailing with 3 commitments. But I just don't see it being that big of an issue right now, just because if you look at Alabama's, overall targets, I mean, 90% of those guys are still out there. They're still uncommitted. We may see a lot of other schools getting commitments, but I really wouldn't be too concerned about it because a lot of those guys, aren't really even Alabama targets. They're not, a lot of them don't have Alabama offers. So I really wouldn't be too concerned about that just yet. I mean, once we start seeing Alabama's, main guys, making decisions, if they're missing out on those guys, and then you start to be a little bit more concerned. But as of right now, not too concerned with Alabama's recruiting class, even though they only have 3 commitments. Everybody says, well, why can everybody else get, these commitments on board and Alabama can't get? Well, Alabama's not trying to press these kids to commit. They're trying to just let them enjoy the process. A lot of these guys are trying to, wait it out a little bit longer. As of right now, it looks like the recruiting will kind of pick back up come June the 1st. So if that happens and kids are able to take visits, we'll start seeing more kids visiting campuses, making decisions, and then with Alabama, hopefully they'll get some more commitments on board. Which I'm not too concerned. They're going to fill their class. They're going to fill their needs, and they're going to hit a lot of their key targets once those guys start making decisions.
Well, when we look at this class overall, you got 3 commitments. Can you I'm sure there's a lot of new subscribers. I'm sure a lot of people don't follow 100% the recruiting. So let's just go over the commitments that Alabama has currently. And I think that'd be a good starting point.
Yeah, well, on the offense side of the ball, just 1 commitment right now in Ajay Hall, Rivals 100 wide receiver out of Florida. Big time get for the Crimson Tide a few weeks ago. Definitely one of the top overall wide receivers in the country. And then on defense, got 2 defensive commitments. Deontay Lawson, linebacker out of Mobile Christian, 6'3", about 215 pounds, had an unbelievable junior season. I think he was named the 3A lineman of the year. And then Anquin Barnes, a defensive tackles, about 6'5", 315 pounds, out of Lee High School in Montgomery, same school that produced Henry Ruggs, first round Alabama wide receiver this past year, or last week. Those are the 3 commitments for Alabama right now, 2 in state, 1 out of state, and just 3 commitments right now. But there's no doubt in my mind they'll certainly get some more before too long.
Bone, so some news just came out just recently, and if you guys are out there and you're just joining the show, thanks for joining it. Be sure and give us a thumbs up. We appreciate it. Be sure and, the super chat's always welcome. And of course, we encourage you to become a subscriber, not only here on YouTube, but at BamaInsiders.com as well. Some news just came out recently about the summer camps being canceled. So now Alabama's not going to have camps or kids on campus rather in March, April, and during the summertime. How big of a challenge will that be for Nick Saban and his coaching staff going forward? I mean, talk about some of the guys that Alabama likes to bring in during those summer camps.
Yeah, well, there's so many different, aspects of this, whereas, you try to bring in guys throughout the summer, try to evaluate them. There's a lot of, I would say fringe guys that are kind of just right there on the fence in terms of having a commit. They may have received an offer from Alabama back in January or February, but Alabama still wanted to see them just a little bit more. They wanted to see them in camp, see how they worked out. Now they're not going to be able to see those guys, so those guys are probably going to be on hold for now. They may not get a committable offer until their senior season starts.
So, hey, Bone, hold on. We got a call coming in. Sorry about that. Although you're on the line with Kyle Henderson and Andrew Bone, who are we on the line with and where are you calling in from?
Hey guys, it's Marcus from Columbus, Ohio. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, Marcus? Thanks. You caught our show earlier this morning, and I knew you called back because of the recruiting. So Marcus is from Ohio. He talked to me about recruiting today, Bone, and I'll just hand it over to the recruiting guru, Andrew Bone. So go ahead, Marcus.
Hey, Bone, how you doing, man?
Hey, doing good. How are you?
I'm good, man. Let me clarify things. I'm originally from Tuscaloosa, but I live in Columbus, Ohio. I'm a high school football coach up here, so I'm a diehard Bama fan.
Good deal.
Yeah, I just want to touch bases on the recruiting, guys. You guys don't seem too worried, but I think it's a time to, start worrying a little bit here.
Well, I think looking at some of these other classes, and there's a lot of momentum going on with you look at Tennessee, you look at Ohio State, you look at North Carolina, a lot of those programs are hot right now. When's Alabama going to get hot? We kind of thought maybe a few weeks ago when they picked up Ajay Hall and Anquin Barnes, maybe we were about to start to see, several commitments happen. A lot of kids decided to hold off. We heard some other kids were about to make a decision maybe last week, but they decided to hold off a little while longer. I'm not too worried just yet, just because, most of their targets, the key targets in this year's recruiting class remain uncommitted for Alabama. Now, we've seen some kids that, let's say, have offers, or, maybe they had Alabama in their top 5. We've seen a few of those kids make decisions here lately. Nobody that I would have really considered maybe, as an Alabama lean or somebody that I thought Alabama was going to land. But I do agree. It's time for them to start getting some commitments, because they really need to build some momentum, because a lot of these other classes, they're continuing to get commitments and people are watching and people are taking notice. And Alabama's it's really quiet on the Alabama recruiting front right now. But I'm not really going to be too concerned until they're their key targets, a lot of the guys that they're really focused on, that they're really counting on to be in this recruiting class. Once those guys start making decisions and going elsewhere, that's when I'm going to be concerned. But as of right now, not too concerned on my part. I know from a fan's perspective, and probably even, looking at the Alabama coaching staff, I bet you they're kind of ready for some commitments to happen. I'm sure they have some guys that they feel very confident about, probably guys that have told them, hey, we're coming. We just want to take it a little bit, longer. We want to take a few more visits and then make that decision. But I will go ahead and tell you that, or I can guarantee you that Alabama wishes they had some more commitments on board right now.
Yeah, Boom. I think big picture, they're going to fill out their class. And like you said, they're in on some top guys. I think their biggest position need right now is offensive line and some wide receivers, mostly on the offensive side of the ball. They filled a lot of the defensive line last year, linebackers. They probably can take another inside linebacker, and pretty sure the secondary. But the biggest thing for me is the top player in Alabama is signed elsewhere. The top player in Alabama last year signed somewhere else. So take it back 5 years ago. Imagine if Julio Jones would have signed with another team. I would think Alabama would have won that national championship. Justin Ross being with Clemson, if he was with Alabama, Clemson wouldn't have won that championship. So letting those top guys get out of state is a big concern for me. 5 years ago, that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, well, I understand your concerns regarding the in-state guys. Last year I thought Alabama had a remarkable recruiting class. I mean, I think they ended up signing 8 out of the top 10 overall players in the state of Alabama last year. This year, Dylan Brooks, I know Dylan Brooks is rated number 1 on some of the sites. He's not rated number 1 on Rivals. JaQuincy McKinstry out of Penzance Valley, who I think is a no-brainer as the number 1 player in the state. He's the number 1 player in the state on Rivals.com, and he's currently uncommitted. But Dylan Brooks making a decision, committing to Tennessee. He was one of those kids that really wasn't favoring Alabama and hadn't been favoring Alabama throughout the whole process. I would have said when he committed to Tennessee that Alabama was probably 4th or 5th on his list. And, you look at Alabama's recruiting class last year at outside linebacker. I mean, Nick Saban probably signed the best outside linebacker class in his tenure in Tuscaloosa, with guys like Quandarius Robinson and William Anderson, Drew Sanders, Chris Braswell, just a remarkable outside linebacker class. So seeing an outside linebacker, from the state of Alabama, even though he was highly rated, going somewhere else, not really that big of a surprise to me. Alabama's going to get probably 1 or 2 more outside linebackers in this class, but losing a guy like him like Dylan Brooks. It sucks to lose an in-state kid. But after Alabama's class last year, I'm not too concerned, man. Now, if this was maybe a year or two down the road, it would be tough because it would certainly be a position of a major need. But just in this year's class, not too concerned just yet. I think they've got some guys that they're heavily recruiting at outside linebacker. Dallas Turner from down in Miami has Alabama as his leader right now. That's certainly somebody that I'd keep very close attention to. But in-state wise, just not too concerned just yet. Let's see how the rest of this class goes. Like I said, JaQuincy McKinstry, top player in the state of Alabama this year from Pennson Valley. I think Alabama's in great shape with him. Tim Keenan, defensive lineman out of Birmingham, another guy that they're very high on, and I think he'll probably make a decision within the next few months. His teammate Jeremiah Williams, another really elite kid outside. He's an outside linebacker that Alabama is extremely high on as well. So I think Alabama's still going to do pretty well in state this year, but bottom line, they got to get a commitment from anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's in state or out of state. They got to get some more commitments on board from wherever it may be.
Hey Marcus, you want to get one more question while you're on with Bone just to lead off the show?
Question,
man. Go ahead, man.
Like you said, it's not a big concern, but it is a concern. My biggest thing is the defensive player. Alabama don't lose in-state defensive players. Offensive players they've lost in the past. Defensive players, they usually lock those guys up. It's either Alabama or Auburn. The big tackle up out of Birmingham that's verbal to Auburn right now. We would love to have him. But like you said, it's still early. These are verbal commitments. And the biggest thing is with the verbal commitments, there's statistics out there that shows those teams that has those verbal commitments, they have a 90% chance of landing those guys. We have a lot of guys that flip, but once you get that verbal, you have more in on these kids. My question is the offensive line, this big, the number one tackle out of Georgia. What do you think our chances are of him? Georgia has a loaded offensive class. They signed 4 or 5 offensive linemen last year, top 4, 5-star prospects. Mm-hmm. I know Bama's recruiting the tackle. I can't remember his name. What do you think the chances are of him?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, this is certainly a major point of need in this year's recruiting classes is offensive line, and you're right. Georgia signed several offensive linemen in the 2020 recruiting class. I think they actually signed 6, and maybe it was 7. I can't remember, but 2 of them were 5-star kids, and Tate Ratledge and Broderick Jones, 2 5-star offensive tackles, and they are still going after those those big time players in Georgia this year with Amarius Mims and Terrence Ferguson. Those are the two of the top offensive linemen in the country, both in the state of Georgia. And both those guys, it's an Alabama-Georgia battle for both of them. I think Alabama, Amarius Mims came out and said that Alabama, was his leader at this time. I don't know if I believe that 100%. I think Georgia has been, in the driver's seat for a while, and I think Georgia feels, pretty confident there. I think Alabama does end up with one of those two between Amarius Mims and Terrence Ferguson. I would also keep a very close eye on the Brockermeyer twins out of Texas. Tommy and James Brockermeyer, 2 guys that extremely high on Alabama. Their father was an All-American at Texas, a first-round NFL draft pick. Despite all that, I think both of them, as of right now, I would predict both of those guys to end up at Alabama. Tommy's rated number 10 overall player in the country, offensive tackle, and James is rated as one of the top centers in the country. And one other offensive lineman to really keep an eye on is J.C. Latham out of IMG Academy, originally from Wisconsin. A lot of people thought it was an Ohio State LSU battle, but Alabama's really come on the scene over the last few months with him. They've really turned up the heat. I would probably say that they are really sitting there up there with Ohio State right now. Ohio State has kind of been in the driver's seat from the get-go, but I think Alabama's right there with them at this time. And, I think that this could be a really special offensive line class. They don't have any offensive line commitments just yet, but if they can get, the Brockermeyers on board, Latham, maybe, not maybe, but I do think they end up getting one between Amarius Mims and Terrence Ferguson. So if they get those guys on board, it could be a really special group overall.
Yeah, I agree. Latham is a big-time recruit.
Hey,
I
well,
see the Ohio State or Bama out of IMG. We've had a lot of success out of there. I'm not going to hold you guys, man.
Thanks,
like
Marcus. I appreciate it.
Going on, so the coaches, we have a lot of time in our hands, so I get a chance to listen to you guys talk some Bama football. So
hey,
I'll be
Marcus,
checking in here occasionally.
Marcus, we appreciate you double dipping, man. You hit the morning show and you got the evening show. We appreciate the support, man.
Got a lot of time on my hands, man.
Yeah, we hear you, man. Take it
Thanks
easy,
a
Marcus.
lot.
All right, be safe. Take care.
See ya.
Call line is open. 205-686-3604 is the call line number. Here with Andrew Bone. Obviously, I promised you guys I would bring Andrew Bone to you, and here he is live. So if you want to get your questions in, and just like that, we got another call coming in. All right, here we go. Hello, you're on the line with Kyle Henderson and Andrew Bone. Who are we on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
This is Michael from Atlanta, a.k.a. Vegas Man.
Hey, what's up, Vegas Man?
Brother?
Well, I have to tell you the backstory real quick before we pass it on to Bone. Vegas Man won the Rivals fan forecast. He's literally the champion. So if you want the recruiting scoop, you can get it from obviously Bone, or you can get it from Vegas Man.
Hey,
so
he's got a better record than I do.
Yeah, Vegas Man, killing it. Thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate you being a subscriber on YouTube and also on BamaInsider.com. So away we go. I'm going to turn it over to Bone.
Okay. I got a question for you, Andrew.
What's up?
A lot of folks are really concerned about the tight end. I'm not that concerned right now. I think the bigger need is going to be some playmakers at wide receiver for after the season. So I guess my can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
We got you.
Oh, sorry. I guess my question is, what kind of playmakers? I know we've got Hall in the fold. What are the playmakers is Alabama looking at the wide receiver position right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. Certainly a big point of need in this year's class is wide receiver, because obviously, losing Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy in the first round this year, and probably going to lose two more in the first round next year in Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. So, who are they going to land? I think some of the bigger names that I've been telling Alabama fans to focus on right now, Ja'Cory Brooks from the Miami area, definitely a kid that Alabama's recruited that area extremely well, and they had a lot of success with obviously guys like Calvin Ridley and Amari Cooper and Judy now. So I think they can continue that pipeline, and obviously they got Ajay Hall on board, but I think they can go into South Florida and get somebody special like Ja'Cory Brooks. That'd be definitely a big plus. Brian Thomas out of Louisiana has had Alabama and LSU as his top two schools for a pretty long time. Most people think that Alabama is in the driver's seat. I feel that way as well, but looks like he's probably going to wait a little bit longer. I was thinking he might decide, relatively soon, but the latest intel we've heard is he's probably going to wait until I think the Under Armour All-America game, in January. So a while before he makes a decision. A few other guys to kind of keep an eye on. Christian Leary out of Orlando, one of the fastest kids in the country. I think Alabama missed out on some speedsters last year, some guys that they were really going after, including what was his name out of Florida, Arian Smith. They were really hoping to land. They missed out on him to Georgia last year, so they're really looking for some speed guys. And Christian Leary is certainly a guy that they really like a lot. Deion Smith out of Mississippi. He's currently committed to LSU, but certainly a guy that they like a lot and has visited already this year. Chris Hilton out of Louisiana. So there's a lot of guys that are out there now. I know we've talked about it a little bit. A guy that we both really like, Malachi Bennett out of Fairfield. His uncle Earl Bennett played at Vanderbilt, played in the NFL for several years. He's one of the fastest kids in the state of Alabama, and one of the fastest ones in the whole country. So, and that's certainly a kid that Alabama has their eye on. But with this whole, and Kyle and I were talking about this right before the show started, was the summer camp season. This is really going to affect some kids who were really hoping to come into Tuscaloosa, earn a committable offer, earn an offer. And I think he was probably one of those guys that they were really looking forward to seeing this summer. Now they're not going to be able to see him. So He just I think he put out a top 8 the other day. Alabama was not in that. So, they're not going to be in it. They're not going to be in the race until at least Alabama makes the decision, hey, we're going to push forward, make an offer for him. But as of right now, the other guys, like I said, Ja'Cory Brooks, Chris Hilton, Deion Smith, Brian Thomas, those are some of the excuse me, bigger names. Troy Franklin out of California, somebody that they also really like a lot, but hasn't visited. And he was going to visit this spring, but obviously that got put on hold. So we'll see if maybe he makes it over to Tuscaloosa sometime this summer. Once this dead period ends.
Vegas man, was that enough for you, man? I mean, are you thirsty for more? I mean, Bone certainly bringing the heat tonight.
I actually am thirsty for one more. I got one more question. I noticed you didn't mention Mario Williams, and is the Tide still after him pretty hard?
Yeah, Alabama's after him hard. As of right now, I just don't see them getting him. Oklahoma's been considered the leader for him for some time now. I think he has Alabama's top 4 or 5, but I think Alabama has a better chance with some of those other guys at this time. I just think Oklahoma's so far ahead, and that it seems like every single time I look at his Twitter account just to see if he's tweeting anything about Alabama or any which schools is he tweeting about or liking, and it's always Oklahoma. So as of right now, I think Oklahoma's in pretty good shape there. But now if he ends up visiting Tuscaloosa again, you just never know, because I mean Alabama loves him. He's always been very high on their list. He's definitely high on their recruiting board. But as of right now, I just think that Alabama's just on the outside looking in for him.
Vegas man, you got one more? I'm sure you got one more, man. No, I don't have another question, but I have a comment. I will say, if Mario Williams visits, I definitely think we got a shot at this kid. I just don't see him ending up in Oklahoma unless he doesn't visit.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely could happen. I mean, Alabama, like I said, recruits the state of Florida extremely well, and their tradition with these Florida wide receivers. I mean, you would think that speaks volumes. He was very high on Alabama last summer. Attended Alabama's camp, and I think last summer when he went to camp, he came away with pretty much Alabama in the driver's seat. Now, obviously he hasn't visited in a while, so if he does get back to campus, I mean, there's always a chance there, and they could really easily get back in the mix for him.
All right, Vegas man, you good?
Yeah, I am. I appreciate it, guys.
Vegas
Thanks for all the great information.
Before you go, we just appreciate you being a subscriber on BamaInsider.com and taking the time to call in tonight. It really means a lot to us, for all the support. So thank you so much.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Vegas man calling out from the ATL. All right. 2 callers in. Let's get it going. All right. We're approaching the 7:25 mark. Already off to a good start. Andrew Bone of BamaInsider.com. My name is Kyle Henderson of BamaInsider.com. Along with Tony Sukalis and Tyler Waldrop, we make up BamaInsider.com. The call-in line is open. 205-686-3604 is the call-in number. I'll bring it up right now, and I'll make a quick edit. So, Bone, as we look to this class and while we wait for our next caller, I'm sure that, a call will be coming in momentarily. Is there a particular, and maybe you've already addressed this, I'm kind of doing some editing on the back end, but a lot of people are curious, what is the biggest need for, or I guess maybe if you could address it 2 points, just one on offense, one on defense, the biggest need for each side of the ball from the class of 2021?
We'll come back.
Okay. Hello, you're on the line with Kyle Henderson and Andrew Bone. Who are we on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Yes, sir. I'm Tate Johnson from Tifton, Georgia.
Okay. I'm sorry, I missed your name.
Tate Johnson. Tate. I'm on the Rivals board too.
Okay.
I'm Tater Tot 12.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I'll turn it over to Bone. Thank you so much for checking in. Here you go.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
What's up, Tate? How you doing?
Doing good. About y'all? How y'all doing?
We can't complain.
I heard that. All right. I've got like 3 or 4 questions. Are y'all ready for them?
We're ready.
All right. the one that we haven't recruited, we haven't offered yet, Bone. Who do you think for Alabama? What's the name we need to look for? The one that we haven't offered yet. Who do you think that
Well,
Alabama can really have a lot of interest in that guy?
Well, I actually mentioned his name earlier. I would keep an eye on Malachi Bennett from Fairfield High School in Alabama. Okay. He's certainly a kid that, I feel like if Alabama was to have if Alabama had a summer camp, he would be there in June. He would get a committable offer, and maybe he would commit, but I don't know that. But as of right now, with camps not happening, it's going to be tough. But he's certainly a kid that I know that Alabama likes a lot, and certainly somebody that hopefully won't miss out on an opportunity just because of the camp.
Oh, okay. Appreciate it, Bone. My second question is that do you think we have a really good shot with Miller Moss as quarterback? I know we don't really need a quarterback right now with Bryce Young. You've got Tua's brother, Tulia, and you've got Mac Jones, of course, and you've got all the rest of them that are great. But who do you think in 2021 class that we have a very great chance of getting?
Yeah, quarterback's tough, and I've said this from day one in this 2021 class. Especially after Bryce Young signed in 2020, it was going to be really tough to recruit an elite quarterback. Knowing how great Bryce Young is, but Alabama's able to get into the top four for Miller Moss, a Rivals 100 quarterback from California. He obviously knows about Bryce Young, but you look at his top four: Alabama, LSU, USC, UCLA. You got to think that that LSU may have fallen off a little bit today after they got a commitment from Garrett Nussmeier. So as of right now, Alabama's probably in his top three. The biggest thing is just getting him on campus. Once his dead period ends, and just kind of selling him on the fact that, hey, we're going to play the best quarterback regardless of who it is. And Alabama proved that a few years ago. With Jalen Hurts, he started as a true freshman, won all the accolades, SEC Player of the Year, everything, and obviously Tua ends up winning the starting quarterback position a couple years later. But you just never know how it's going to unfold, what's going to happen. You're a quarterback, you're one play away from being the starter. But Alabama's in it for him. He's really probably the only quarterback, in my opinion, right now that they have in terms of a top tier quarterback, they have a good chance to get. I know people have thrown out other names, Jalen Milroe, who's committed to Texas, but he hasn't even said if he's gonna make a visit back to Tuscaloosa. We'll see who's potentially still out there. I mean, I know there's some names that they're looking at, including Deion Sanders' son, who camped in Tuscaloosa last summer. So we'll see if he might potentially visit. Aaron McLaughlin, who's from the state of Georgia. He's camped a few times in Tuscaloosa. He was a former Auburn commitment, decommitted, and is now uncommitted. So I would really kind of just wait and see what happens with Miller Moss. I think that's what Alabama's going to do. Is kind of wait and see what happens with him before they kind of, maybe move on to somebody else. But he would be the key target at quarterback at this time.
Well, all right. That sounds good right there. Hopefully we can get Miller Moss.
Tate, do you got another one or
yes, sir. Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Of the wide receivers, who do you think we get when it's all said and done in February at the last recruiting stage? In February, who do you think we get, Bone?
Well, as of right now, I'm still kind of going with the guys we mentioned earlier. Ja'Cory Brooks out of Miami. I think Alabama's got a great chance to land his signature. We've heard a lot of chatter about him in Alabama here recently, and obviously, Alabama having two guys go into in the first round at wide receiver position. I mean, that only helps Alabama's chances with a lot of these elite wide receiver targets. Brian Thomas, still think Alabama's got a great chance with him. got to find a speed guy. Got to find somebody who's extremely explosive. I'm looking at maybe somebody like Christian Leary, maybe Deion Smith. Those are two guys that they're extremely high on. Now, if they miss on those guys, we could easily see them go after Malachi Bennett. Out of Fairfield, as we mentioned earlier, but those are kind of the top names that I would, really kind of pay attention to at this time. Obviously, we know how crazy, recruiting changes and how new names emerge, but as of right now, those are the names that I would really kind of focus on is Ja'Cory Brooks out of Miami, Brian Thomas out of Louisiana, and then obviously, like I said, Christian Leary, Deion Smith. Those are kind of the names that I would, pay very close attention to over the next few months.
Okay. Appreciate it, Bone.
All right, Tate. I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks,
yes,
Tate.
sir. Y'all have a good day now.
Take it easy, buddy. All right, Bone, we got a voicemail that came in. It was from Harris in New Orleans. Harris, if you're out there, Harris is asking, with the success that LSU has had recently, what is Alabama's chances with guys like Mason Smith, Sage Ryan, Brian Thomas? I guess, basically he's asking, is Alabama still going to have the success going into Louisiana, considering that Orgeron's doing such a great job, with his program? Oh,
yeah. I mean, he obviously, program like LSU, Alabama won, 7 in a row against LSU, but they were still getting their top guys. But, now, will Alabama be able to continue to have the success that they've had recruiting in Louisiana? I think they will. I think, there's some guys that Alabama probably sits in pretty good shape with at this point. Kane Williams, safety out of Louisiana, could end up playing linebacker, but he's somebody that I think Alabama's probably sitting in good position with right now. Sage Ryan, one of the top cornerbacks in the country. He's probably an LSU lean, but I think Alabama was kind of on the outside. It was kind of an LSU Clemson battle for a while with him, but he visited Alabama right before COVID-19, struck the nation, struck the world. And I think Alabama's really made a serious move with him. I don't know if I would say Alabama's in the driver's seat, but I think they are probably right behind LSU for him at this point. And Mason Smith, I mean, number one defensive tackle in the country. I think it's going to be tough. I think that's going to be a really tough pull for Alabama this year. I mean, obviously he's a top priority player for a lot of programs, Alabama, LSU, Georgia. You can just continue to name all these programs that are very high on him. So as of right now, I think he probably stays in the state of Louisiana, but I do think Alabama will have a little bit of success instead of Louisiana this year. As I mentioned, Kane Williams, Brian Thomas, they might could sneak in and get Sage Ryan. I think that's going to be a little bit tougher, but yeah, I mean, those are some of the top guys that they're going after. And Chris Hilton, he's another, big time wide receiver out of Louisiana that has Alabama very high on his list. So I think Alabama's still going to be able to have some success, but so is LSU. LSU is always going to have success, especially coming off of a national championship.
All right, Bone, you want to take some more phone calls? I'm feeling good, man. All right,
sure.
Here we go. Call-in line back open, 205-686-3604 is the call-in line number. Here with Andrew Bone of BamaInsider.com. Thank you for joining the show earlier today. We appreciate it. I was talking the college football rankings, and ESPN recently released their college football rankings, and no surprise, it was Clemson at the number 1 spot, followed by Ohio State. And then it was Alabama. So we are talking about that earlier today. Call line is open, 205-686-3604. We're also talking about an early mock draft, which was put out by Pro Football Focus. So if you want to kind of catch up on that in the morning show, be sure and go to BamaInsider.com or right here on the YouTube channel and watch that. And then also Tyler and Bone dropped a recruiting nugget today on, is that Terrence Ferguson, Bone? Was that Terrence, right?
Yeah, Terrence Ferguson. Yep. We had broke. So on our daily nuggets. So what we're doing right now for our daily nuggets is we're picking one prospect, one Alabama target, one of the Alabama's key targets, and just sharing, exactly where he stands in his recruitment.
Be sure and check that out. Hey, what's going on, everyone? You're on the line with Kyle Henderson and Andrew Bone. Who are we on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, Kyle, this is Nelson Taylor from Hoover.
Hey, Nelson, you got in. I appreciate. I'm glad you called back.
I wanted to get on the live show, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Did you have a productive Monday, first of all?
Oh, I had a very productive Monday.
So did I. Crushed it.
How about you guys?
Yeah, crushed it. Got up, got a workout in, got the morning show, had a staff meeting with staff. We were productive, man. We're crushing it. So I'm going to turn you over to Bone, and you guys get your recruiting on.
Awesome. Hey,
What's up,
Bone, real
Nelson?
quick. Who do you see as the dark horse in the class as far as a big name, maybe a 5-star, high 4-star that's not really on our radar right now?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's tough because, most of the guys we talk about are guys that have visited, and I'm just kind of waiting to see, who ends up, maybe coming down for a visit once this dead period ends. Can Alabama potentially get, defensive tackle Tywone Malone out of New Jersey down on campus for a visit? Can they get TJ Bowlers, defensive lineman out of Iowa, on a visit?
If you want to say Corey Freeman, go ahead and say Corey Freeman.
I know Corey Freeman is, decommitted from Clemson, and I know he came out and said that Alabama's a school that he's still considering. I just don't see it at all. I just can't see it. He visited Alabama last summer. Hasn't been back since. Obviously, COVID-19 has a little bit to do with that. But I think if he were to go anywhere else, I think it's going to be USC. But obviously, he'll probably be watching and see how USC does this season. But I think he's probably going to end up staying a little bit closer to home. But I still think Clemson's in it for him. It wouldn't be surprised if he ends up back at Clemson. And for those that don't know, Corey Freeman, #1 player in the country, according to Rivals.com, defensive lineman out of California. Decommitted from Clemson a couple of weeks ago. But I just, as of right now, don't see him as a part of Alabama's class. I listed Alabama's top defensive line targets the other day. He is definitely high on Alabama's recruiting board, but I didn't list him just because I don't think Alabama really has a chance with him. But if he does visit, you never know what may happen.
Nelson, what else you got, man? You got another question for Bone?
Man, I think that's it. I appreciate you guys doing this format. It's awesome.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much.
Very informative.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep bringing it in, Nelson. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, buddy.
See you guys.
All right. Call-in line is open. 205-686-3604 is the call-in line number. Have Angel Bone of BamaInsider.com. And that was just Nelson checking in. Didn't get where Nelson was calling in from. I always like to see where people are calling in from. It's we've had Columbus, Ohio. We had Atlanta. We had Harris from New Orleans. So, be sure. And I always like to see where people are watching the show. And I remember when we had all of our Hawaiian friends calling in. That was awesome. And I remember I started having the show in the morning, and then all the Hawaiian people were still asleep. So then I had to switch the format to the evening time. So we built up a nice little Polynesian following. That was awesome. Bone, when we, everyone is so excited about this season and trying to figure out what exactly is going to happen. And if you just missed it earlier, I talked about Alabama's summer camps being canceled. How difficult is this going to be for this coaching staff to make up ground? I mean, when you look at the Rivals.com recruiting rankings, I believe Alabama is 58th right now. As we enter the month of May, they're not going to be able to have any guys on from March to July. If Nick Saban is able to come out of this and still have Alabama in the top 10, you got to think it's one of his best jobs that he's ever done recruiting-wise at Alabama. Yeah,
the camp season kind of, it being canceled just sucks just because you can't evaluate kids, even kids that have committable offers right now. They're not going to be coming into camp, and because we see kids that get evaluated and they're going to move up and down the recruiting board, based on their summer camp season. And it's an opportunity for coaches to develop relationships, to work with these guys, kind of find out a lot about these guys when they're out there working with them. Find out if they're coachable. It's an opportunity for kids to spend time on campus and visit campus. You go see all the facilities, spend time with players, spend time with coaches, spend time with the training staff, and really kind of get a comfort level on campus, and they're not going to be able to do that this year. It's obviously not just at Alabama, but it's all over the country. And with Alabama only having 3 commitments, and we don't know if that number is going to stay there or if it's going to grow. Maybe hopefully for Alabama's sake, it's going to double before the summer starts, and they'll have 6 commitments. But you just don't know. You don't know where things are going to be, a month from now, 2 months from now. With Alabama, I still think I know I'm probably in the minority. I think they're going to be just fine. I know a lot of Alabama fans haven't been really pleased with, seeing the number of commitments at all these other schools and only 3 commitments right now at Alabama. I just think with all the guys that are still out there at every position, I still think they're going to be just fine. Once their big time key targets start making their decisions, I think they're going to be just, sitting pretty good. Well, I don't know if, you just don't know about the rankings though, because, a lot of kids that they're going after, they may be 3 stars right now. Well, those guys aren't going to have an opportunity to even move up to 4 stars because they're not going to be going to camps and showcasing themselves.
All right, let's get this call in. Hey, what's going on? You're on the line with Andrew Bone and Kyle Henderson, who are on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, this is Harris. I'm calling from New Orleans.
Hey, Harris, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, guys.
Before I turn you over to Andrew Bone, I have to say that New Orleans is one of my favorite cities in this great country. I'm a big World War II guy, so I love going to the museum. I love the music. I love the seafood. I love the nightlife. I'm guilty of it, so I'm guilty of it all. I love New Orleans, so thank you very much for calling in, Harris. I'm going to turn you over to Andrew Bone.
Hey, great. Thank you so much. Bone, with me being here in Louisiana, and I was just curious about the recruits that Alabama's looking at here in Louisiana, with that being Brian Thomas, Sage Ryan, and Mason Smith. And I know LSU is coming off a tremendous season, but I was just curious about Alabama chances with those prospects.
Yeah, well, those are some guys that Alabama's been recruiting for a long time. Not just not just recruiting them all of a sudden. I think that LSU winning national championship, having success. And those guys are key targets for them. But as of right now, I still think that Alabama can have some good success in Louisiana this year. I don't know if they can get Mason Smith. I think Mason Smith probably an LSU lean. I can't really see him going anywhere else at this time. But Alabama's probably sitting in pretty good shape with Brian Thomas, the 4-star wide receiver. Kane Williams is a 4-star Rivals 100 safety, who I think could end up potentially being a linebacker at the next level. I think Alabama's in pretty good shape with him. Chris Hilton, another big-time wide receiver out of Louisiana, has Alabama extremely high on his list. Probably an Alabama LSU battle for him. Sage Ryan, it was probably an LSU Clemson battle for a long time, but then he visited Alabama for Junior Day earlier this year, and I think Alabama's really made up some strong ground with him. So I think it's an Alabama LSU battle with Sage Ryan, but still probably give the edge to LSU, just right there in his backyard. But yeah, I know LSU coming off that national championship, they're going to continue to have a lot of success, especially recruiting in their home state. But I think Alabama can still land a couple prospects in Louisiana this recruiting cycle.
Awesome. Hey, one last question. Xavier Sorey, hadn't heard much about him lately. Are we still in good position for him?
Yeah, Xavier Sorey out of Graceville, Florida, recruited kind of as a defensive athlete. I think Alabama's still trying to kind of figure out exactly which position. Now he certainly looks the part of just a monster outside linebacker. I'm not really sure exactly where Alabama sits right now with him. I hadn't talked to him in a while. I know Alabama's been high on his list for a pretty long time. There's 3 guys in the state of Florida that are all recruited kind of as outside linebackers by Alabama. And as Keno Knott, Dallas Turner, and Xavier Sorey. I think Alabama, really loves all 3 of those guys. I think they get at least one of them. I'm not sure which one they're going to get. I know Dallas Turner recently said that Alabama's in the lead, but I still think Georgia's right there on their heels. Keno Cott, definitely high on Alabama as well. Probably end up Alabama, Florida, maybe Florida State, and then Xavier Sorey. Probably an Alabama, Florida State, Florida battle for him. But I definitely think that Alabama's high on his list. Like I said, I think Alabama gets at least one of those guys in this year's class.
Hey, great guys. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and please be safe.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thanks for calling in. All right, Bone. As we move forward to the show, we appreciate everyone calling in. We appreciate all the support. Now, this is what you can get on BamaInsider.com. We appreciate the support, whether it's a super chat, whether it's just you becoming a subscriber, hitting the thumbs up button, taking your membership to the next level, becoming a loyalty club member. That helps front the bills. That helps keep the business going. So this is a business. This isn't something that we do on our free time. This is how we feed our family. So when you know that this information is coming to you, this is what we do for our livelihood. So we certainly appreciate you guys supporting us in any way that you can. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. Bone, when we talk about, prospects from the class of 2021, everyone on the chat is talking about Kool-Aid. Kind of give the backstory on him, paint the picture of just how talented this young man is. And, he has an offer, I believe, to play basketball at Alabama too. I mean, what an incredible young man he must be.
Yeah, absolutely. Kool-Aid, JaQuincy McKinstry, the number one player in the state of Alabama from Pinson Valley. Really, knew about him when he was a sophomore. I mean, that's when his recruitment really kind of took off. Offers started coming through. I mean, he's probably been down to Tuscaloosa just countless times. I mean, there's been so many times he's been down to Alabama that's even been unreported just because he just goes down there, hangs out with the coaching staff, hangs out with the players, and, doesn't, it's not really considered a visit. He's just going down there to hang out. I guess you could say it's an unofficial visit, but, it's not like there's a recruiting event or anything. He's just going to hang out with the guys that he knows, that he's comfortable with. So that's why I feel like Alabama's in a very good position with him. He's a tremendous athlete, plays on both sides of the football. Could be a wide receiver in college, could be cornerback, could be safety. I think he probably ends up as a corner. He's actually been working with former Alabama safety Justin Woodall, who was part of that 2009 national championship team. Been working out with him along with Malachi Moore, Alabama signee, defensive back. Been working out with those guys just about every single day, trying to get better, get right for the football season.
All right, we'll go ahead and take this call.
Okay.
Hello, you're on the line with Kyle Henderson and Andrew Bone. Thanks for calling in. Who are we on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
I'm Scott Cook from Field County, Alabama.
All right. Thanks for calling. The line is a little bit choppy, so let's see how it goes. But thanks for calling in, and I'll turn you over to Andrew Bone right away. What was your name again? Was it Scott?
Scott King.
Okay, Scott. Okay. Go ahead. You're on with Bone.
Hello, Bone. How you doing?
Hey, doing good. How are you?
Pretty good. I appreciate everything y'all do. And my question is on the Mims kid from Georgia. How do we stand with him?
Well, I think Alabama's, definitely in his top two. I know that he came out recently and said that Alabama was in the lead for him. I don't know. I don't know if I buy it. I think it's a clear top two of Alabama and Georgia. Georgia was, he grew up an Alabama fan, actually grew up in an Alabama household. But Georgia really, turned up the heat, became the top school for him. But then everyone said, all right, well, once Sam Pittman left, went to Arkansas, Georgia had fallen off completely. Well, I just don't think that's the case. I think Matt Luke's come in and done a really good job of kind of reeling, some of the in-state guys back in. I think Georgia's probably has a slight lead still for him, but long way to go. As of right now, he plans on waiting until I believe it's October the 14th to make that decision. And, it's going to be a tug of war. It's going to be an absolute dogfight. Obviously, Georgia signed several offensive linemen in the 2020 recruiting class. Alabama didn't, and it's a big position of need. But, I think it's going to be tough with Alabama this year. You know, you look at the guys that they're recruiting. They're recruiting several offensive tackles, several really good offensive tackles with Amarius Mims, Tommy Brockermeyer, Terrence Ferguson, J.C. Latham. If they could get, you know, I think it would be great if Alabama could get a guy like Amarius Mims, but if they could get 2 out of those 4, you know, that would be an absolute home run grand slam for them if they could get at least 2 of those 4, because all 4 of those guys are really elite players.
So, are we looking at any kickers?
No kickers or punters this year. We might see that in the 2020 class. Only special teams guy I know that they're recruiting right now is a long snapper, Rocco Underwood out of Florida. I think not really sure where things stand with him right now. We need to probably check up on him. Hadn't checked up on him in a while. We know Alabama and Florida have both offered him. He visited Alabama back during the season, but he's probably the only, you know, I would say long snapper is the only special teams that Alabama is going to probably take a commitment from, you know, if they can get Rocco Underwood. I don't know if, you know, there's some other guys that they're recruiting that they would take. You know, sometimes you see these long snappers, you know, come in as invited walk-ons, but I know that Rocco Underwood out of Florida has an offer, and Alabama would certainly take him.
Okay. The receiver, who's the fastest one that Alabama's recruiting this year?
Ooh, fastest one. You know, you're gonna have some kids get mad if you know, everybody runs a 4.3 40 out there. So you know, Christian Leary out of Orlando, probably, you know, certainly one of the fastest kids that they're recruiting that they certainly would love to add. I mean, you know, Kashawn Booty and Arian Smith were 2 of the fastest guys in last year's class that they were going after, and, you know, missed out on both those guys. But, you know, they certainly would love to add a speed guy in this class. Christian Leary, as I mentioned, Deion Smith out of Mississippi, currently committed to LSU. You know, those are 2 guys that, you know, have a lot of speed. Ja'Cory Brooks out of Miami, another guy that they could potentially land. But, you know, they're certainly, you know, they're getting some big body receivers in this class, but they certainly want to get, you know, a speed guy. You know, it's somebody who can make some really explosive plays down the road.
Okay. Well, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, good calling. I wanted to get you guys' feedback in the comment box real quick. Bone and I were talking about this earlier today. We started the show off at 7 p.m. Central Time. Kind of like to gauge your interest if you'd like to see the show start at 8 or 8:30 after, you know, all the responsibilities have been taken care of. For example, I know, you know, everybody has kids, including myself. So, you know, is that after bedtime kind of showtime a little bit better so we can kind of divulge and talk recruiting? So I'd like to get your comments in the comment box. We'll take one more call. I mean, we're just about approaching an hour. So if you're out there and you have a recruiting call, we'll definitely take that and get that to Andrew Bone. And then what we'll do, Bone, is we'll get together. We'll talk about kind of the show format, how long we want to go. We want to get your feedback as much as possible. Do we want to go over an hour? Do we want to go, you know, have a couple key points that we talk about throughout the show and kind of develop a format that's easier for the viewer out there? Because I know, you know, you're taking your time to watch the recruiting show and you want it to be good and you want the content to be relevant. So we'll definitely, you know, develop a plan to make sure that the content is top quality coming your way. If you guys are just joining us or if you're new to the site, my name is Kyle Henderson, the managing editor here at BamaInsider.com. We wear a bunch of different hats. Andrew Bone, who's our recruiting analyst. You know, Bone, obviously one of the most tenured recruiting analysts that there is. And that's why when we started BamaInsider.com, we obviously you know, knew that we were in a good spot having Andrew Bone. And you've seen the great work by Tony Sukalis, our team writer, and Tyler Waldrop is definitely a great addition to the team. So you'll see us in different formats. You'll sometimes see Tyler and Bone talking, most recently on the Daily Nuggets right here on YouTube. You'll, of course, catch my morning show or my call-in show, and you'll get the stuff from Bone. And think about upgrading to the Loyalty Club membership. You get different you know, different perks come with that. So if you're interested, there's plenty of videos kind of explaining that different options of becoming a Loyalty Club member. And of course, you can become a premium member on BamaInsider.com, a free 30 days is available. The promo code is simply Roll Tide, and we'll get you through it. This is it's going to be a long summertime. We're about to enter the Sahara Desert of the football season, kind of scrape into what could be, an interesting summertime as we try to figure out everything. Boom, we got one more call coming in, so let's take this in. All right, good evening. You're on the line with Kyle Henderson and Andrew Bone. Who are on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
From Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, I'm sorry. We didn't get your name.
Mike.
All right, what's up, Mike? How you doing tonight?
Not much. How you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much. You're on with Andrew Bone.
All right. I know that Saban tends to want to only give out offers to guys that he gets to see in camps, and I know there's going to be a problem with that. I just don't know if you know how he plans to handle that. Is he going to reschedule the camps? I'd like to hear your feedback on that.
Yeah, well, it's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of kids that are out there right now. I would say there was probably, majority of the kids that we talk about on Bama Insider every single day. A lot of those guys, they can commit at any point. They can commit right now if they want to. And there's probably, I would say, 60 or so kids that have a green light to commit whenever they want. Now there's another, several kids that are, they have offers right now, but they, Alabama wanted to see them a little bit more. So what are those kids going to be able to do? How can they showcase themselves? How can they separate themselves? And I think, what Alabama's probably going to do is, just get film throughout the summer, get them to do individual drills or workouts, or get somebody that they can go up against, whether it's a wide receiver going up against a defensive back or offensive lineman doing some drills against a defensive lineman. Obviously the skills, not going to be as talented as you might see in a camp, but they're going to have to do something. They're going to have to improvise. They're going to have to do stuff that they've never had to do before. So it definitely makes things a lot difficult. If they can get the majority of their kids, that they're recruiting heavily right now that have committable offers, everything will be fine. But, we have seen a lot of really good players that Alabama has signed that didn't get their offers until the camp. Quinnen Williams, was committed to Auburn. Alabama, wanted to see him in camp before he got that committable offer. He came to Alabama's camp, got the committable offer, flipped from Auburn to Alabama. Obviously, we know how his career ended up. Last year's class, DeMoy Kennedy was committed to Auburn for a very long time, decommitted, was on the verge of committing to LSU. Well, Alabama talks him into coming up to camp, works out, was one of the best kids, ended up becoming a 5-star recruit, measuring in at 6'3", about 210 pounds, ran a 4.5 40 at camp, became one of the top players in the country. That's not going to be happening this year. We're not going to be able to see some of these kids emerge after camp season, which is going to suck for a lot of these, not only for kids, but for coaches as well, because they're not going to be able to evaluate these kids in person. So, everybody's just kind of waiting and watching to see what happens. But I think we're just going to see Alabama, and along, not just Alabama, a lot of schools throughout the country are going to be requesting film, practice highlights or whatever it may be. And, I think a lot of these coaches are going to really have to go out on the road immediately once the fall games begin, and watching these guys in person and figure out, who they really want, because most of the time in the fall, and, we don't really talk about this too much, but in the fall, a lot of these coaches are going out and they're seeing juniors. They know about all the kids. They know about all the seniors. They know who they like. They've got a lot of commitments on board. This year, it may be a fall where we see a lot of these coaches go out on the road to evaluate seniors, which is, not really the case. People may think, oh, well, these coaches are going out to watch seniors. They don't really go out to watch seniors. They go out to watch juniors. They go out to watch their commitments. This year, we're going to see them going out and watching a lot of seniors that don't have committable offers, who could potentially get committable offers after their senior season.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for calling in. Anything else while you're on the line?
Well, I was wondering also if any word from NCAA on the recruiting calendar, have they adjusted it at all, or have they not changed?
Nothing's been adjusted just yet. I mean, as of right now, they said that, the dead period's gonna end, at the end of the month, and hopefully recruiting visits can resume come June the 1st. I know of a few kids who've already told me that, they plan on making official visits to Alabama in June. One being Hudson Wolf, the #1 tight end in the country out of Tennessee, currently scheduled to take an official visit to Alabama on June the 20th. I know the Brockermeyer twins plan on getting back to Tuscaloosa in June for official visits. So, that's the plan as of right now. And hopefully nothing changes there. But I imagine we'll see a lot of kids, even though there won't be camps. I imagine there's going to be a lot of visitors, in Tuscaloosa throughout the month of June. And I imagine July as well. July was a dead period, but I imagine NCAA will change things up and allow the month of July to be an open period where kids can visit.
I hope so. I'm ready to get back to normalcy.
Definitely.
All right, thanks.
All right,
guys.
All right, appreciate it. All right. Well, I think that was a good opening show for the recruiting show. As I mentioned, Andrew and I are going to get together and kind of, fine tune things to make sure that we're delivering good content to you, to make sure it's not stale, to make sure not overdo it. I know a lot of the times the oversaturation of just too much content that dilutes the product and it doesn't make a good product. So we'll get together and we'll, try to figure it out and, kind of fine tune it and look at this video, but we appreciate all the feedback. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, comment in the comment box, and you can always reach out to us either right here on YouTube, but we're always on Bama Insider. So if you want to become a premium subscriber of BamaInsider.com, the promo code is simply Roll Tide. If you want to up your subscription right here on YouTube and become a loyalty member, you can learn more about that by hitting the join button. Bone, did you have a good time tonight?
Oh yeah, it was great. It was it's fun. We talk to guys all the time on the recruiting message board, but talking to them on the phone, hearing their voices, really cool. Really enjoy connecting with our fans out there.
Yeah, and I think it's fun to let you loose, kind of to unleash the Andrew Bone and just kind of watch you do your thing. It's cool, man. Right. So I'm sure a lot of people certainly appreciate it out there, and we hope you guys appreciate the content as well, and you can show us that by hitting the thumbs up. But until we'll catch up with you guys, we'll think about it and come back with another recruiting show. Make this kind of a regular deal as we continue to push through the summertime. But we want everyone to be safe. And as we always do at the end of the program, we appreciate everyone in the United States military overseas protecting our freedom. It's great to live in this great country. So for Andrew Bone, myself, Kyle Henderson, this is the BamaInsider.com recruiting show with Andrew Bone. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll catch you next time right here on BamaInsider.com.